Shalom alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. President Trump is on his 7-day trip to Europe. During this trip, he is renegotiating some trade deals with Europe. It is my prediction that Europe will coming down in next 15 years, if not before, unless they change their course of actions towards the permeation of ungodliness in Europe. So we are predicting if they do not change what is going on in Europe right now, that is ungodliness in Europe. So they may come down economically and we will see the collapse of Europe. Why I'm talking about this, just like I said, because President Trump, he's on 7-day trip to Europe, and during his trip, he's renegotiating the trade deals. So should he think about negotiating the trade deals for the longer term, when I am predicting that probably it may come down in 15 years? This is your host, Dr. Coker, with the program Bible Explains It All. I'm well qualified, well informed, and very high analytical skills only by the grace of God. Your host is here, Dr. Coker. Some countries of Europe leaving God, we already know this, and some countries are adhering it. Mostly when you go into the Western Europe, you see the trend, and that trend is very disturbing. Almost like 70% of the young people in Western Europe, they are not attending church. Actually, this is the statistics of UK, because President Trump is UK right now. So I'm just like, so right now, 70% of the people, and now these 70% of people, so why did I say in 15 years the Europe will fall economically? There will be an economic collapse in Europe, and probably I'm talking about the Western Europe, and it's just going to be different in Eastern Europe. So probably all this like godliness is just like shifting to Eastern Europe and coming out of Western Europe. But in UK, 70% of the people, 70% of the young people, they are not going to church. And these 70% of young people in the future would be what? They will be dealing with the government of UK, with the government of Western Europe under those conditions. So I am predicting the economic collapse would happen, and I would rationalize it academically, and I would rationalize it biblically. I'm not saying it on the top of my head without any rationalism. So whatever I say, I rationalize it, and I rationalize it from the biblical lens, and I rationalize it academically also. So stay with me, and under the weight of ungodliness and the absence of Christianity, what's going to happen in Europe? That's what's going to happen. Equality, justice, and liberty will be absent in Europe. And these are the main tenet of Christianity. If Christianity would leave Europe, so all these three biggest tenets of Christianity would leave Europe with it, which is equality, justice, and liberty. Now, if you really look at what's going on, and you can go yourself and see why the Christianity is declining in Europe. This is not something I want to share with you, all the statistics, but you can Google it. This is the age of information. Just Google it and you will find that Christianity is definitely leaving Western Europe. And now the thing is this, with that, what's going to leave? Again, I said equality, justice, and liberty, and these are the main tenets of the Bible. Equality, if you stay with me, like open your Bibles, Acts chapter number 10, verse 34 through 35, it's saying, so Peter opened his mouth and said, truly I understand that God shows no partiality, but in every nation, anyone who fears him and does what is right, acceptable to him. So that shows, and the Bible is inundated with the verses which are showing that God does not show partiality. Now, when I talk about God, and I probably just saying over and over in my program, when I talk about God, I'm talking the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So I'm not, probably talking about the universal God, whichever universal God you probably think it is. But I am just like absolutely not talking about the universal God. I'm talking about the God of Bible, which is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And that God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is talking about the partiality, and is showing that you do not show any partiality when you are among people. So it's not saying that you only love Christian. The God of Bible is not saying only love Jews or Muslims. Love everyone. And that's what the equality means. And the liberty only comes from the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And that liberty is just like the whole Bible. The start of the Christian faith is on the basis of liberty. And when it's gonna be absence from Europe, so there will be no liberty, there will be no freedom. And I'll just stay with me and I will tell you why. And I'm just going to prove it academically with you this morning. And I'm just going to prove it biblically also why Europe will fall in the next 15 years. Now the freedom, but now that you have been set free, I'm just reading Romans chapter 6 verse 22. You have been set free from sin and have become slaves of God. The benefit you reap leads to holiness, and the result is eternal life. And it's just like probably in my previous program, I talk about that we are the children of a free woman, a woman who is completely liberated, and that is Sarah, and that is wife of Abraham, and we talk about this. And then the third tenet I talked about is the tenet of, I said, equality, freedom, and the liberty. And the third one is just very important, is love. So the minute the Christianity would leave Europe, you will not see the love towards all the immigrants. You do not see the love towards anybody else, because the love is the main tenet, and that's what the Christianity, the whole fundamentals of Christianity is standing upon. So the love is just like, it's not like an ordinary love. It is not the love you just like say it with the loose lips. It's the real love of Christ, and the real love of Christ is different than the love of any other faith you come encountered with. And that is Matthew chapter 5 verse 44 through 45. And that's what it's saying. I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be children of your Father in heaven. Do you see in any faith on the face of the world, and you know where this most of these Europeans and the Western Europe, where those people they are flocking to, they're flocking to atheism. And atheism they have seen just not too much north up there in Russia and every place. You see what happened with Russia when Russia adhered to communism. That was the calamity of the economic development. The whole Russia came down, and the whole Russia was just like completely disintegrated. And that's what's going to happen with Europe if they were just the people in Europe, they just keep walking towards the ungodliness and or towards the atheism, what they are just like. So Matthew 5, 44 to 45, I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. No other place you will see this kind of love. Only the God of Bible is showing you, and the God of the Bible talk about this kind of love, and no other faith. We just like to, and Romans 12:8, let no debt remain outstanding except continuing debt to love one another. It's not saying love only Christians again. Okay, so that is the difference, my brother and sister. That is the difference. It's not saying only love Christians. It's saying love everyone, regardless of their faith, color, religion, or whatever. Love everyone, and that is the Christianity, and that's what's going to live with it. And I would just tell you, so freedom, equality, and love is the main recipe of economic development, for crying out loud, you know. And that's why me, you, all the immigrants all over the world, they just want to flock to Western Europe or USA, because these are the main tenets that they are running towards, and they don't even know this. Equality, justice, liberty, peace, and the love is on the top. And these are the main tenets of Christianity. when you live on your full potential. So how that works economically, I'm just going to tell you academically how does that work. When you live on your full potential, do you know why people all over the world, they want to come to America? I mean, they want to come to America because they live on their full potential. And when you live on your full potential, my brother and sister, so that is the recipe of the highest GDP, because your GDP grows and the country's GDP grows with it. So I'm just going to tell you, because why? You can become an entrepreneur, you can do anything you want to, and the production of the country goes up. When the production of the country goes up, the GDP goes up, which is a gross domestic product, and the standard of living for the whole country goes up with it. Where there is equality, where there is freedom, where there is love, these three tenets are present. So all your GDP, when your GDP would go up because you live in full potential, and the innovation go up, and your tech and the tax, what I'm just talking about is the innovation. Any tech innovation, that is the main recipe of any economic development, and that's the economic growth. And I don't want to take you back in the history, but you can. Okay, now if everyone has freedom and equality to do whatever they want under the Christian law or under the very good law, so they can. That is a recipe of. Now, I'm just going to cite Harvard University. A pair of Harvard University researchers recently examined, and I'm proving it academically, they recently examined 40 years of data from dozens of countries. Dozens of countries they took the data, trying to sort out the economic impact of religious beliefs or practices. They found that religion has a measures effect on developing economies. And now the same thing, Italian economists have presented findings that religion can boost GDP. I just talked about this, okay? And I proved you, before I give you the sightings from academia, that how it's going to boost, that it can boost GDP by increasing trust within a society. And how can you increase a trust within a society, my brother and sister? The trust can only be increased within a society where there is a presence of love, there is a presence of freedom for all, not for certain people, freedom for all, and where there is liberty, and freedom, and there's love, and there is equality. These are the recipes, and I told you these are the recipes from the Bible, right? So Italian economist is saying the same thing what I cited, is saying that the GDP increasing the trust within our economy, and that trust, and I told you, can you have a trust within a society without these three main tenets of love, equality, and freedom? Can you tell me? You cannot. Okay, now let me ask you another question. Can you have any other way? Can you just go and can you become a communist or atheist, and now you say equality, justice, and liberty would stay, or love will stay within that society? Can you do that? Absolutely not. You can, I can give you example over example where the communism did not work because the GDP did not grow, because the equality, justice, and liberty, and what I cited from the Italian economist. Okay, so now, is there any other faith they can do this? If you are just like divided into the different caste system, how can you permeate equality in that system? And if you cannot permeate equality, you cannot permeate trust in that society. So the caste system is not going to work if you just like dividing people into different castes. What about, if you say, okay, if you do not think the way I think, I will murder you. Do you think that would work? That would work. That would enhance trust within a society. Do you think that would? Absolutely not. And if it does not, again, the Italian economist, he is proving that without trust in the society, you cannot increase your GDP. When you cannot increase your GDP, your economic development will go downwards, and that's exactly from the book of economics. Okay, now what will grow the elements of trust within a society? You know this, and we talk about this: equality, justice, and love. Now, please tell me if the Christian values may increase the trust within a society. Just say yes, because I already proved it to you. I proved you academically, I proved you biblically through the analysis of the Bible. So I proved you both ways. So yes, it will. So now Deuteronomy 14 verse 2 is saying chosen people. So you are the chosen people of God. So then start living a godly life. Just start living the life that the people, they would see that you are people of God. Now if UK decide and Europe decide to lose its chosen status by running out, because all this the industrial revolution started right from UK. You know this, I mean, everybody knows that, I mean, probably if not, so I'm just telling you now. So if they just lose God in Western Europe, so they will lose the chosen status. By losing the chosen status, so guess what's going to happen? So the economic development will come down. And if it's just like the trend, just the top of the hour I said, if the trend stays the same, what's going to happen? So then in next 15 years, the Europe will fall economically. Isn't it? I proved it to you, and I proved you biblically, and I proved it academically. At the end, I'm just going to say this. You are the salt of the world. Do not lose your saltiness. It's written Matthew chapter 5:13. You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything. So if Western Europe lose Christianity, they'll be good for nothing. And then people from all over the world, so wherever the Christian values will be, so they will have to migrate in that country under those circumstances, except to be thrown and trampled underfoot. So God bless you all, and thank you very much. The best compliment you can do about this program, if you just go and type in Bible Explains It All. So when you see Bible Explains It All, subscribe that channel on YouTube. And God bless you, and I love you, and Jesus love you too. Thank you very much, and we will talk to you later. Thanks. Bye-bye.